that. All right. You know what, folks? Before I bring Coach Switzer on, he and I go back long way. And some of his guys were recruiting me. They gave me a scholarship, and I think what it was I wanted to stay on the East Coast with my grandparents. And Coach had so many legendary players at OU. And by the way, one of my best friends of all time is Leroy Selman. And when I got to the Buccaneers and the Bucks drafted me, he was one of the first people. And I told him I wore 93 in college because of him, because he wore 93 at OU. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to go. And so Coach Switzer was like, all right. So we ended up playing against Coach Switzer twice, once in Norman and then once in once in Norman and then once down at the Orange Bowl. And some legendary ball games with all the Bosworth teams. He won the national title in '85, and he's won 3 of them. And he's one of only 3 coaches to win a Super Bowl and a national championship. Here he is, Coach Switzer. Coach, how you doing, my friend?
Dan, doing well here in Norman, Oklahoma, and sitting here in my office, and I'm glad I connected with you. Hey, I like your beard. I'm 80-something years old. I've never grown one. I'm finally turning mine loose, and I'm going to see what I can do with this.
Coach, are you enjoying it? Are you,
well,
after all the years of coaching, are you enjoying? Because we had Dick Vermeil on yesterday, and Coach Vermeil looks like he's really enjoying his post NFL coaching career. Are you enjoying it?
Sure, I am. I live on the campus of the university, Dan. I'm about 600 yards from the stadium. I have been here for 20 years. Well, I've been in Norman for 57 years. My wife, Becky, and I live on the campus corner, and Becky was a 25-year head coach of gymnastics here at Oklahoma. She was Olympian in '88, Seoul, Korea. So it's Oklahoma and all around here, I promise you. So I'm right across the street from the Tried-Out and Pie-Fi house, a couple of fraternities. I don't know who in the hell they are, but I know the sororities. And it's kind of neat to be on the campus here. It keeps you kind of young, maybe.
Coach, let me throw this at you here. Did you enjoy coaching in the college ranks, or did you enjoy your time in the NFL more?
Well, they're totally different. In college, you're about developing young men. It used to be, not that way anymore with NIL. You know what NIL means, don't you? You know what it stands for, NIL? Now it's illegal.
Hey, Coach, I wouldn't know anything about that at Miami. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, that game we lost to Norman, if y'all didn't break Troy Aikman's damn leg, Jerome Brown and you and the rest of them, it broke his leg and put him out, we might have had a hell of a game going. Troy ran 48 yards for a touchdown. It was called back on the damn center on an option play.
Hey, Coach, I gotta ask, because Troy was a teammate of mine in Dallas for a little bit. Is it true that once we broke Troy's leg, it was you that was instrumental in calling Terry Donahue and helping him get that transfer to UCLA?
Well, yeah, it was true.
Troy tells me that's true.
Oh, yeah. Why wouldn't it be true? I'm going to help the players that played for me. But Troy was a gifted athlete. He had the it factor. He was a great arm. Saw him in high school as a 16-year-old. He ran a 4.6 40 and 6'4", 200 pounds. He could run then, and he was a young athlete. But obviously he got bigger and heavier in pro and still could move pretty good, but wasn't the runner he was in college. And but anyway, when he broke his leg, I inserted Jamal Holloway, which was a gifted runner, great speed and quickness, and was it truly an option quarterback. But Troy wasn't truly an option quarterback. Hell, he's the first player picked in the draft as a quarterback in the NFL.
I'm gonna tell you this, Coach. I know you're gonna love this, but one of my dearest friends is Marcus Dupree, and I told Marcus. I said, Marcus, if you didn't act like a bonehead, and you stayed on those 85 and 86 Oklahoma teams versus us, Coach, that hey, not taking anything away from Spencer Tillman or them guys, but that wasn't Marcus Dupree. No. You know what I'm saying?
You bet. Let me tell you, Marcus didn't have the maturity, experience, coaching, all the factors that like Earl Campbell had. I saw Earl Campbell play in high school, and I came back from watching Earl play in Tyler, Texas in the mid-'70s. And I told my staff I've seen the first player I've ever seen that could go out of high school football, make one of the NFL teams, and start in the NFL as a running back. And I know I'm right about that. Marcus Dupree is the only other kid I've ever said had the talent to do that, but he didn't have the mental maturity to do that and the physical maturity to do that, because even though he's 6'3", 235 and could run 9.5, 100. He just still wasn't ready for that. But he proved the impossible. You know, Marcus Dupree did the impossible. If you laid out a football for 4 years and got up to 335 pounds driving a truck, all of a sudden one day you decide, well, I'm going to go back and make an NFL team. Everybody would laugh at your ass. Hey, all the coaches have been in the league. Anybody that's played in the league, you can't do it. It's impossible.
No way. He made the Rams.
Hey, 3 years he played for him, and he went back and made it because he committed to himself. He didn't have a coach. He didn't have anyone motivating him. He didn't have anyone to drive him, push him every damn day in a damn garage. Hey, he did it himself. Well, that's the maturity you'd like for him. That's what Earl Campbell had when he was a senior in high school. Marcus didn't have that. And but truly, they're the two best I've ever seen coming out of high school. Most talented.
Better than Dickerson?
Yeah, well, Dickerson was a great one. Well, we had Adrian Peterson here. Adrian Peterson was unbelievable back. And you know that.
Billy Sims.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's the first player picked in the draft. He played for me. He was won the Heisman. Should have won it two times. But I won as a junior. But anyway, yeah, I had some great backs here. But you know, all of them are great. They're all in their own way. But those two are the most gifted that I've ever seen. You know, certainly Earl and Marcus. But anyway, the guy you got hanging over his shoulder, Leroy Selman back there is special too. I'm telling you, he was the first player picked in the draft. He's a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer. Just unbelievable. And
better person too, Coach.
Oh, God. Oh, what a wonderful man. The whole family's that way. Lucius, Dewey, and Leroy, all three brothers. No play. What they did, when they played at Oklahoma in the 70s, they went 54-3-1 and 2 national championships back-to-back, 200 seasons back-to-back. And, you know, Leroy is the first player picked in the draft and had a fabulous career with Tampa Bay, which was a new franchise, and they didn't have anybody worth a damn. And except like Ron Wolf was general manager, he says, you know, I don't care who's the quarterback. We know we need a quarterback when you're a new franchise. But when Marcus Dupree's there in the draft, I mean, Leroy Selman's right there in the draft, you take Leroy Selman. I don't care who the quarterback is.
Hey, Coach, those first 2 teams that you coached at OU, if I'm not mistaken, I think they were on probation. I think that's what Leroy told me.
Mm-hmm. We were.
Were those 2 teams, in your opinion, the 2 best football teams you ever had, or do you put the 85 team in there somewhere?
Well, no, here's at 74. I had 74 team, little Joe Washington. And those guys, the 74 team had 8 of my defensive starters started in the NFL. Terry Peters at strong safety, Clyde Powers at corner for the Giants, Peters for the Redskins, Randy Hughes for the Dallas Cowboys safety. Then I had Jimbo Elrod, Leroy Selman, Dewey Selman. All those guys started in the
Lucius.
NFL. Rod Schultz for New England Patriots. Oh, yeah, Lucius. All those guys were NFL players. And it's just that we were so deep and talented back then. And, you know, I was getting all the good players. I was recruiting black quarterbacks in 72 when no one else was recruiting a black player. And I was doing the right thing before anybody else did. And that was the right thing to do and helped me tremendously in the black community to be able in 72. Darryl Roy used to accuse me of cheating, Dan. I said, Darryl, you're not even recruiting the same players I'm recruiting.
Coach, I want to tell you something. Jimmy Johnson told me that he learned from you in recruiting. And this is why back in the 80s and 70s, like you said, Lou Holtz and all those guys, they're not going to go down into Belle Glades, Liberty City, and Overtown and recruit those guys. You walk in there, and he said, you know what Barry would do? There'd be dirt on the ground, grass on the roof, potbelly stove. He'd walk in there and say, I'm going to change this here for you, and your kid's going to come to Oklahoma. And that's how we started getting all the players that really didn't have other opportunities. And that's why Miami built that program up even more, is because that's how we took a page from how you recruited.
Well, that's nice you say that. I think, you know, obviously y'all recruited some great talent there. You had good talent. You know, your quarterback was good. You threw the ball, made big plays there. But, you know, we were a run team, option game. You know, it's kind of hard to get behind it, to rely on the passing game to try to get you back in it. So we were ball control and score and play great defense is how we won. But, you know, you said a while ago, asked me the difference between pro football and college football. The college game is about developing young men for the next 40, 50, 60 years of living. And making them helping them be a better product for them and their families for the rest of their life, to have the, kind of life coaches want them to have. I was close to my players. I had great relationships with them. I ended up having that at the Cowboys too, because I did a lot of one-on-one with my players. I always did that in college and with players in pro football. You only got 53 of them, so you had time to get it done. So I really established myself with a lot of guys that I really care about, and they call me today from pro football. That doesn't happen very many times, that guys that played pro football check with their old football coach. The college, when you recruit a kid at 17, 18 years old, you got him for life. He's yours. But pro football is not that way. But I've had a great relationship with a lot of guys. The one thing I regret about the Cowboys is Troy Aikman and I didn't have the relationship. But even though Troy played for me, I recruited Troy, and I did help him get to Terry Donahue. He gave me 3 schools he wanted to go to, and that was, he said, I consider Stanford, Arizona State. John Cooper was there, and he had been to Tulsa, and he knew what Troy Aikman was. I didn't have to convince him to take Troy Aikman. Yeah, he said he wanted him immediately. And but Terry thought I was, most people, coaches don't want to recruit, take someone's transfer or someone, because they got academic problems, they got disciplinary problems, they got a lot of dirty laundry. They don't want to hang out and dry or wash for someone else. So what happens is that I said, Terry, wait a minute. I'm telling you, this guy will be a first-round pick as a quarterback. The guy is a talent. I didn't know he was going to be the first player picked, but this guy is exceptional. He's got the it factor, and you need to. Terry sent a coach here, which is illegal, to work his ass out, and he worked him out. And he called back and said, "We got Terry O'Donoghue or whatever the hell, Terry,
Terry Donahue.
Yeah, no, not Terry, but we got the quarterback. The old Pittsburgh quarterback, Terry Bradshaw. Throw rockets and all." He said, this guy's special. And so they took him, and hell, he was special.
Hey, Coach, tell me if this was Larry Lacewell told me this story about you walking into Jerry's office, and the first thing you did after they fired
I want to know where both of them were. I want to get to both. You went like
this. Mm-hmm. Hey, what the F have you done?
Yeah.
Where's Jimmy?
Yeah.
And from what I was told, Larry said, and Jerry said, Barry, Jimmy's gone. He goes, how could you two guys screw this thing up?
Yeah.
Is that a true story, Coach?
Yeah, it's true. I said, how the hell do y'all screw something up like this? I tell you what, it's damn ego personalities. I tell you what, it's ridiculous. And I ate their ass up. I was their coach at Arkansas.
Yep.
I was 5, 6 years older than both of them. Jimmy was 17 years old. Jerry was 17 years old. They're living in the athletic dormitory at Arkansas. I was the dorm coach, so I spent a lot of time in the rooms with them. I knew every damn one of them real well. I got Jimmy his first college job. He was at Picayune, Mississippi. Didn't win a damn game. I called him and said, get Linda Kay, put Chad Brent in the car, drive your ass to Wichita, and Larry Lacewell will hire you as a defensive line coach. He did that, and that's how he got in college coaching. So and then ended up, he was with me in Oklahoma.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was with me in Oklahoma for 4 years. So, Jimmy and I were close here. But I knew that Jerry, if they split up, Jerry's going to call me, because he had a short list. There's only 2 people on the list. It's Jimmy and me. That was his list for the head coaches at Dallas Cowboys. And he called me that day, March 28th, 1994, and he says, you want to coach the Cowboys? I said, hell, I didn't know the job was open. He said, well, it's fixing to be. I said, well, hell, call me when the job is open. So a day later, he called and he says, come to Dallas, and that was my interview.
Hey, Coach, let me ask you this. One of the things that I missed the most about what got me hooked on college football was you and those rivalries with Tom Osborne. I mean, is that one of the things and some of the things that today's college misses when we don't have, because of money and TV?
Sure.
Coach, we don't have Texas A&M, Texas. We don't have OU, Nebraska.
Well,
those used to be centerpiece games on Thanksgiving.
Well, we were, in that era back in the 70s and 80s, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Miami were those dominant teams during that period of time. And we were the contenders every year for the national championship. We were ranked 1 or 2 all year long, most of them. I lost the 78 national championship up to Lincoln. We fumbled 9 times, lost 6 of those damn things, only got beat 17-14. And that's the year Billy Sims won the Heisman. And he makes a great run to get to the 2-yard line and fumbles the ball, gets knocked out of his arms at the 2, and that ended. They got the ball, and hell, that ended our drive. And and a minute to go in the game. We were going to win the national champ, beat their ass there. But we got to play them in the Orange Bowl. We didn't lose a fumble in the Orange Bowl. We had them 31-10 going in the fourth quarter. We didn't beat ourselves. And but the day it counted, we beat ourselves. It was terrible. But Miami, Oklahoma, and Nebraska were the teams of the 70s and 80s. And, of course, Tom dominated the 90s. And I left and gone. I was with the Cowboys in the mid-90s. But, yeah, it was a great run. I had a great run, and Tom had a great one. Jimmy had a great one. And it's amazing how close we all were. You mentioned Laceville. Well, we were all together. I loved it, the Cowboys. Jerry, Jimmy, and Steven, and me, and Lace. Hey, we had a great time in our careers together because we all coached.
Hey, Coach, how much did you take? Because I asked Coach Johnson this about Frank Broyles, because he said that, and I think Jimmy got a little bit of what Coach Broyles, is this true? The former Arkansas coach who won the national title, and you were up there coaching with him. Is it true that he was kind of a delegator and not really a coach that was?
Well, he was a coach in the staff
coach.
room.
He was a delegator.
Well, he let his coaches coach. You hire coaches to coach, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you get 10 coaches out there. What do you want to do? Coach every damn position? You don't have time to coach all the damn position. You brought coaches in to coach. You let them coach. Frank Broyles did that. I let my coaches coach. I didn't. If I had anything I needed to say, I talked to them in constructive criticism. I didn't do it in front of the coach or the players' ass and eat their ass out and show time and do it in front of fans or whoever's out there. I kept people to the side, player and a coach. But we all do it different ways, and that's we all have different style of doing things. And mine was that approach. And I would have bust my ass for coaches that complimented me and recognized I gave second effort. But by God, I'm going to go back and bust my ass again. Coaches that eat my ass out for doing mistakes. Why don't you tell me when I do something good instead of just when I make a mistake? Ass out. But
hey, Coach, I'll tell you what Jimmy used to tell us. I think this goes back to maybe with you too, because he used to tell us this, and I used to sit there and he'd look at me and Jerome Brown, and he'd sit there and go, Dad, he'd be in our ass. And I go, why are you on my ass all the time? And Coach goes, worry when I'm not.
Yeah. No, bullshit. Hey, listen, he knew he'd get away with it with you because you'd keep your mouth. Jerome might whip his ass, when I went into the league, when I was in the league, Jerome came in. He was the best defensive tackle in the damn league. Without a doubt, with Philadelphia Eagles, because he was in the same conference we're in. And I'm looking at film of this dude, and I said, God, he come right out of college, and he's the best damn thing in the league right now. Oh, and that's when they had Warren Sapp and all those guys. They were really great, talented team.
Absolutely, yep. Coach. Do you like today's college football with the nil?
Hell no, it's terrible. Now it's legal. You just. It's all about how much money you're going to get. I don't know if Oklahoma can beat Texas anymore. Texas can raise more money than University of Oklahoma. We got 3 million people in the state. They got 35 million. There's more corporations and supporters and people that follow that program than we'll ever have. And, it's just, it's not about kids used to go to school to get an education. They knew they're going to redshirt and be there 4 or 5 years, and their parents knew that too. Now it's how much money am I going to get? How much you gonna pay me? If they don't play the first damn year there, their asses in the portal and they're 18 years old, make a decision like that. It ain't about education anymore. It's just we're just a little offspring of the pro game right now.
Hey, but Coach, anyway. How come Oklahoma has been able to survive all the last couple decades and Nebraska hasn't been able to? Coach, I got to tell you, in my lifetime, I don't ever remember Nebraska being as poor for as long as they've been. They were never less than a 10-win team. Now they can't win 6.
I know it. Well, it's back when they took a lot. They have 300 dressed out back when we were coaching. I'd have 250. It's back when I could take 50 a year. Then they went to 30 limit in 72, freshmen being eligible. And you still redshirt all 30 of them and bring in another 30 the next year. And kids didn't hit the field till they were really a sophomore or junior. And after they redshirted, you know what I mean?
Well, Coach, I think you changed the rule where 85, like it was in the mid-'80s, where colleges had to go to 85 because they were saying you and Nebraska were hiding all the good players on your team.
Well, that might have been true, but really, it was a numbers game, and that's why they had so much depth and the experience. When I played a Nebraska team, they were average age was 21.6 years of age. I was 19.7 years of age because I had so many young freshmen that could play for me, talented kids out of Texas and all. My running backs were all young, and fast and good and talented, but they're all 18 years, 19 years old. But yeah, Nebraska was always an older team because they had so many numbers and they redshirted so many that they didn't hit the field in their third year with big linemen. But anyway, Dan, my
Coach,
phone's going to drop dead on your ass right here.
hey, I'm going to do one last one here. Can you imagine Brian Bosworth in today's NIL?
Well, yeah, he'd get a lot. And he's a great player, really was. He's people say he was a bust. Bullshit. He was drafted in supplemental round, first player pick, and he starts. When you start as a pro team as a rookie,
Yeah.
you're not a bust. And 3 years later, his damn shoulders, because all the steroids he took, his total ligaments were gone, so he couldn't play anymore. So anyway, it's
all right. Hey, Coach, I'm going to let
player.
you go because I don't want the phone to die here. But just so you know, Bosworth, me, Chris Carter, we're all drafted in the same supplemental draft.
Okay, well, great. Good, Dan.
Hey, it's great to catch up with you. I had Tony Casillas on the other day. He says to say hi to you.
You bet. Hey, I'm going to be with Boz and Tony Casillas next weekend. We're going to Dallas. We're flying into Washington to do a signing, a pro deal, signing, autograph deal. I'm going to be with all three of us will be together.
The only reason I didn't go to Oklahoma was you didn't have two DTs. You only had Casillas. I said, that's not for me then.
Tony was the first player picked in the draft, defensive lineman. He was his second player in the draft.
Yeah.
And he played 12 years, and he was the first defensive lineman to go.
Absolutely. But, Coach, I'll let you go. Thank you so much, my friend.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
You got it. The great Barry Switzer, Hall of Famer, one of my dear friends. I really loved talking with Coach. Absolutely great. Hit the like button here. Guys, don't forget, March Madness is here. JAKIB Sports is looking for a select 500 folks from our loyal viewers and subscribers to sign up. You get our great partner, Underdog Fantasy. The minimum is $10. God, that was awesome. $10, that's it. It takes to sign up. They'll match you all the way up to 100. But if you want to go $50, they'll match you $50. During the NCAA tournament for March Madness, the promo code is WIN. The promo code is WIN. Hey, yeah, remember the days? And back in the day, Nebraska and Oklahoma on Thanksgiving. When I was a kid, man, the games that mattered the most to me when I was a kid growing up, Notre Dame SC, actually Pitt Penn State was a really big game back in the day. Pitt Penn State was a big game. Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, USC, UCLA. Those are all Alabama, Auburn, still to this day. In my opinion, I would say that the greatest rivalry in college football, still to this day, Auburn, Alabama, or Michigan, Ohio State. Yeah, Jim McKay and Keith Jackson. I had the pleasure of Keith Jackson calling my games when I was in college, along with Brent Musburger. How about that, Yale? I got Brent Musburger. If you go to my highlight reel, Brent Musburger goes, and Dan Sileo from Stamford, Connecticut, And I got another one with Keith Jackson calling my name out when I was playing against Pitt. And my family came in to watch me play at Pitt, and there's Keith Jackson, Dan Sileo, Stamford, Connecticut. And you're like, holy cow, Keith Jackson said my name. Absolutely, man. Oh, back in the day like that, man. Every kid wanted to have those guys. I didn't have Chris Schenkel. I was too old or too young for that. But I did have Keith Jackson and Brent Musburger called my games. And we were on every weekend. And we were on a national televised game every single year. So it was a lot of fun, man, playing in a Red River rival too. That's right. Texas OU. That's still a big, giant game to this day. Dorsett run against Penn State defense. Hey, Bob, dude, Penn State and Pitt, that game on the East Coast, that's what, again, another game that got me hooked on college sports was that Penn State Pitt game. Because there wasn't really any East Coast football teams. Rutgers stunk. Boston College was kind of good. But then I always watched Pitt, Penn State. My cousin played. Dave Pizzulli played at Pitt. One of my best friends, Tony Brown, played at Pitt. That's why I got a lot of – Dave Wanstead coached me. He played at Pitt. I really enjoyed that, man. That was really awesome. Tony had 300 yards against Penn State. Cosell – no. Chris, I don't think Cosell called college games. I know Keith Jackson did. Chris Schenkel did. I don't think Jim McKay – Jim McKay, here's a distinction on Jim McKay. Do you know he never called a World Series, a Super Bowl, an NHL Finals, or an MLB World Series? And he's arguably the most famous broadcaster in the history of broadcasting because he did ABC's Wide World of Sports. Okay? He I mean, unbelievable. It's great football. Right. Big Sills took gifts. He said so. So wait a minute here, Chris. Chris says I took gifts. Let's see. Chris, hey, statute of limitations is up. So we had a place called Monty Trainers in South Florida. It's the Joe Stone Crab. And we would get these little business cards, and on the back, Joe would sign something for us. Give this guy a meal, no alcohol. There was always no alcohol. No alcohol. If we got the meal, you didn't get alcohol. He didn't want to be responsible for that. And I don't blame him. So there was no alcohol. So you'd go in all you can eat at Joe Stone Crab House. And I had a stack of these cards. And we would gamble these things like they were chips in a casino, and we would play hands of Tonk, or we would play spades, and we would gamble these cards. I'm not kidding. I mean, they went through hands and I parked cars for a place called the Taurus Room in Dave Green. Dave owned the Remax down in South Florida. So for about 30 minutes of parking cars at the Taurus Room, I got about $800 a week in cash. So I got $800 and I'm parking cars for like 30 minutes. This was like every week, or whenever I wanted to work. I needed money. I'd go down there for like a half hour, 40 minutes, and they would give me like $800. Sometimes I get $1,000. I think Jerome had a credit card from the guy. Jerome loved him. We had great deals with the car dealership guys. They go, hey, you want to use a car this weekend? Yeah, okay, I'm going down to the Keys. Sure, here's a car. Here's the keys. What about the insurance? Don't worry about it. Would have killed somebody. Nobody cared. I mean, it was crazy, man. Yeah. Kirk Gowdy didn't call any of my games. The old Cowboy, I don't think he did. Okay. Seals, you ever play roulette or craps? Craps. Tootsies, thank you. Seals got paid underneath the table during college. Tell the people. Yeah. About $35,000 a year. Yeah. And I drove a Corvette. And? What's your problem? Nah, yeah, we couldn't go to the one thing they made sure you know what the strip clubs were doing in South Florida for the Canes players? They would turn us away because they didn't want us to get in trouble. No. Sileo, you're not coming in here. We're like, come on, man. Hey, sorry, Aunt Betty. They're like this. Come on, man. Hey, Tootsie, no, we couldn't go in. The community made sure we couldn't go in those places. Yeah, honest to God, we'd walk in like this with a hat on, and the bouncers would all go like this, and the manager, that's not happening. You're not coming in here. We'll give you a sandwich. You want to eat something? You want some soda or you want some iced tea? And we would go to all the strip clubs were teamed up against the Canes football program. We couldn't go in. They wouldn't let us in. You ever notice we did a lot of shit in Miami? The one thing we were never in trouble at strip clubs because we weren't allowed in. And it wasn't the coach saying we couldn't go in. We couldn't go in anywhere. Well, we tried. We tried all the time, man. We tried Luther. We'd even asked Luther to help us. No way. Luther would be the same way. You're not going in there. Now, what Luther would do, just so you know, here, Yale, Luther would get the top 2 floors of the Fountain Blue.